I was frozen for a bare instant before the command registered. "Come on!" I yelled, and grabbed Fabian's reins, since he still seemed to be mired in whatever horror had gripped him a moment ago. Kekanu and I charged toward the trees on the other side of the road, with Fabian's and Senovo's horses flanking us. Senovo's longer-legged mare drew half a length ahead, only to fall as another javelin buried itself in her neck. Kekanu twisted under me, dodging around his injured herdmate. "No!" I screamed, watching in horror as Senovo went down with the horse, only to roll free in the form of the wolf an instant later. The animal fought its way loose from Senovo's clothing and scrambled upright, unhurt. He snarled and bounded back the way we'd come, toward the fighting. "Senovo, don't!" I cried. But it was too late. He was gone. I dragged Fabian's horse into the shelter of the trees, ducking and weaving to get deeper into the underbrush. We were not well hidden by any means, but at least in here a javelin would most likely hit a tree trunk before it could hit us. "Oh, gods," Fabian whimpered beside me, one hand covering his mouth. "Oh, gods, it's my fault. My fault." I could spare no further thought for him, though, watching the vicious battle from between the gaps in the trees. "Please, mighty Duresta," I prayed with every fiber of my being, "let us get out of this, and I swear I will learn archery properly and never go unarmed again. Please, please." Andoc charged his bay gelding directly at one of the attackers, sword raised in readiness. I had expected the riders to be Alyrion, but they wore Rytheri garb. The two opponents collided with a dull thud of horseflesh and went down. My stomach heaved as Andoc's gelding rolled once and staggered to its feet, leaving his rider on the ground. Andoc tried to rise and fell back with a cry, his leg twisting under him. His sword was still in his hand, though, and he crawled toward the motionless heap that was Volya. The Rytheri horse flailed, and badly injured could not rise. Its rider lay nearby, unmoving. At that moment, the wolf leapt into the fray, tearing at the hamstrings of one of the attackers who had been unhorsed during the initial clash of fighting. The Draebardi warriors were outnumbered, though, fighting back to back in a tight knot, while Andoc sprawled across Volya, his sword at the ready to protect the fallen chief. "We have to go help!" Fabian cried, trying to drag his horse's reins free from my grip. I held on, feeling sick to my stomach as I said, "Fabian, no! We'll just be a distraction to the others." With a cry of frustration, Fabian flung himself out of the saddle. I followed, quick as a flash, and grabbed his arm to stop him. He struggled, yanking against my grip. "Let me go. I have to. It's my fault." I still couldn't spare the attention to try and make sense of his words. Beyond the trees, Yakun staggered with a cry as his opponent's sword found its mark, but righted himself and immediately resumed fighting. One of the other warriors fell. I couldn't make out who it was. The battle looked hopeless, and I blinked away the tears of horror that were threatening to blur my vision. My mind was slow with fear. I had to figure out what to do. Should we run or hide if the others fell? Would Fabian fight against me, give away our presence with his struggles? More hoofbeats pounded toward the fight, and I nearly shouted in relief as Magoldis and the rest of the Mereni galloped onto the scene as if from nowhere. With my heart pounding, I crept closer to the edge of the trees to watch, still maintaining a tight grip on Fabian's arm. The Mereni warriors descended like avenging spirits, their battle cries echoing through the trees. The tide turned swiftly. The Rytheri attackers now the ones outnumbered, and already weary from fighting. I tried to follow the chaotic battle, but dust had risen to obscure the twisting bodies of horses and humans as metal rang against metal. When things finally quieted, I grabbed Fabian's hand and we charged forward to rejoin the others. Several Mereni whirled toward us with raised weapons,